You live in the wealthiest country in the history of the world. You have access to more food, more comfort, more entertainment, more opportunity than any human being who has ever lived on this earth. Your refrigerator has more variety than a medieval king's banquet. Your phone contains more information than every library that existed 200 years ago. You can order anything you want and have it at your door before you finish thinking about it. And somehow, quietly, in the background of all of it, there is a feeling that it is still not enough, that you are still not enough, that something is missing, and you cannot name it, and buying something new fills the gap for exactly one afternoon. You are not ungrateful. You are not broken. You are not failing at happiness. You are a human being living inside a system that was never designed to make you feel enough. It was designed to make sure you never did. Let's start with what enough actually felt like for most of human history. For 300,000 years, your ancestors lived without accumulation. A hunter-gatherer community did not store more than it needed, not because they couldn't, because storing more than you needed made no sense in a world where everything was shared, everything was carried, and the group's survival depended on mobility. You took what you needed. You used what you took. When it was gone, you found more. There was no concept of having more than the person beside you. There was no metric for how your pile compared to someone else's. There was just what you had and whether it was enough for today, and for 300,000 years, today was enough. Psychologist Tim Kasser at Knox College spent decades studying the relationship between materialism and well-being. His findings were consistent across every study, every culture, every demographic. The more a person organizes their life around acquiring things, money, status, possessions, the lower their reported sense of well-being. Not slightly lower, significantly lower. People who prioritize wealth and acquisition over relationships, community, and meaning consistently report higher rates of anxiety, depression, and emptiness, even when they get what they were chasing. Especially when they get what they were chasing. Because the acquisition answers the wrong question. The question was never, how much can I have? The question was always, do I belong somewhere? Am I known by someone? Does my life mean something to the people around me? And no amount of accumulation has ever answered those questions. But America was not built on that understanding. America was built on more. It was the founding premise, the national promise, the thing that made people cross oceans and continents and endure everything the crossing cost them. More than what you had, more than your parents had, more than anyone in your family had ever imagined possible. And for a time, that promise delivered something real. The generation that survived the Great Depression and the Second World War experienced more as genuinely transformative. A refrigerator, a car, a house with a yard, a life materially safer and more comfortable than anything their parents knew. More meant something then. It solved real problems. It answered real fears. But somewhere in the decades that followed, more stopped solving problems and started creating them. The economy discovered something more powerful than need: desire. In 1955, economist Victor Lebow wrote something in the Journal of Retailing that became the quiet blueprint for everything that followed. He wrote that the American economy needed to make consumption a way of life, to convert the buying and use of goods into rituals, to seek our spiritual satisfaction, our ego satisfaction, in consumption, not to meet needs, to replace meaning, to make the act of buying something feel like the act of becoming someone. This was not an accident. This was a strategy, and it worked more completely than anyone imagined. By the end of the 20th century, the average American home had tripled in size since the 1950s, and the self-storage industry. Buildings full of things people own but cannot fit in their already large homes had become a $39 billion a year business. Americans were buying more than any civilization in recorded history and reporting some of the highest rates of anxiety and depression in the developed world. At the same time, this is not a coincidence. Psychologist Barry Schwartz called it the paradox of choice. When options are limited, choosing is simple, satisfaction is possible. When options are unlimited, every choice carries the weight of every alternative you didn't choose. The more you have to choose from, the more certain you become that somewhere in the options you didn't pick was something better. And so, satisfaction becomes structurally impossible. Not because you made the wrong choice, because the system is designed to make you feel like you always did. And then came social media. And it took the comparison that used to happen between you and your neighbors and expanded it to include every aspirational image, every curated life, every person, performing wealth and happiness and success. On a screen you check 50 times a day. Your great-grandmother compared herself to the people on her street. You compare yourself to the entire world, every day. Before you get out of bed. The ancient brain was not built for this. It was built for a group of 150, where you knew everyone's actual life, not their highlight reel, where the person who looked like they had more you also knew was struggling in ways that didn't show. Now you see only what people choose to show. And your brain, which has no way to distinguish between a performance and a reality, responds as though everything you see is true, and concludes that everyone else has figured out what you haven't. That everyone else has enough, that you are the only one still waiting. Here is the truth that the system will never tell you. Enough was never a number. Your ancestors did not wake up and calculate what they needed to finally feel sufficient. They woke up and built a fire and fed the people beside them, and felt the specific human warmth of being known and needed and present in a life that was genuinely theirs. That feeling was enough. It was always enough. It still is. But you have to stop long enough to feel it. Long enough to let the noise of more go quiet for a moment. Long enough to notice that what you actually have, the people, the moments, the ordinary unremarkable evidence of a life being lived, was everything your ancestors worked 300,000 years to give you. America gave you everything, and somewhere in the having of it, the one thing it could never give you got harder to find. Not because it isn't there, because you have been told every single day of your entire life to look for it somewhere else.